Good morning and welcome back to the 9 o'clock conversation right here on Rapid Television. My name is Martha Alu.
My name is Victor. Okay, welcome to the big conversation today.
All right, now we'll get into it almost immediately. Nigeria this morning, we're asking questions that has divided homes, churches, mosques, and Twitter timelines all at once. Should the government be in the business of building places of worship? Now, buried inside the 2026 Appropriation Act at 68.32 trillion naira, the largest budget in this country's history, accountability group. Now, there's an accountability group tracker, a project of budget. They went looking at this budget and they found that 8.5 billion naira was earmarked for the construction, renovation, and equipping of churches and mosques. Now, not one line item, but scattered across ministries and agencies that on paper have nothing to do with religion. 1.91 billion naira for 7 church-related projects rather. 6.14 billion naira for 52 mosque projects. Among them, 1 billion naira for musical and cultural equipment for churches in Bende, Abia State. Now, the constituency of the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, who has since disputed that figure. And he says it was actually 780 million naira for a youth reorientation program, not straightforward church funding, but that was what it was labeled as. Now, 1 billion naira for solar power installations in mosques in Zamfara State. Now, there are also palaces, 22.15 billion naira set aside for the renovation and furnishing of 106 traditional rulers' palaces, 11 of them worth 5.85 billion naira, with no identified location at all, which means nobody can independently verify they exist. And when the Punch newspaper widened the search to look at all 78 federal ministry departments and agencies carrying line items for mosques, palaces, community hall, market squares, and civic centers, the number came to nearly 400 billion naira. 45 of the agencies handling palace projects have no statutory responsibility for palace construction whatsoever. Now, this is very alarming because it is happening in a country running a 31.45 trillion naira fiscal deficit, where health gets barely 5% of the budget, against a 15% commitment Nigeria signed onto over 2 decades ago, and has never met. So this morning, we are asking, what is the constitutional basis for this funding? Who benefits from it? And what could this money have done instead? And helping us understand this today, we have both our guests already on standby. First, we have Honorable Ibrahim Obanikoro. He's a former member House of Representatives, Etiosa Federal Constituency, Lagos State. And we have a second guest, Obi Trice Emeka. He's a social, economic, and political analyst. Please stay with us and welcome to our guests. Good morning and thanks for joining us on the show.
Good morning and thank you for having us.
Welcome. Good morning to you.
All right.
Good morning.
First off, let's go to Honorable Ibrahim. This is the second time we're having you. We couldn't complete our conversation, last week. It's good to have you back talking to us about an entirely different matter.
Thank you for having me again.
All right. As a former lawmaker, what was your first reaction to this allocation that was made public? The allocation of this amount of money for church, mosques, and palaces. What was your, first reaction to that?
I didn't have any reaction to that because I didn't. If you have information and if you look at the society we are in today, I don't think you think that is out of order. Okay. The social fabric or the moral fabric that holds us together as a people is slowly tearing apart. And we have to look inwards to see what is going on and how do we make sure it does not tear or continue tearing or that we repair it. And whether you want to believe it or not, religion and our tribe and language is what binds us as a people. It's what we identify with. And this is what also helps us to shape and mold opinion largely, especially when it comes to family issues. Now, if the government is looking at things in the direction at which I have just tried to describe, that we are slowly losing the moral fabric that holds us together as a people, and something has to be done. And if the government is looking in that direction, and also don't forget, all politics is extremely local. When politicians are campaigning to get into office, the citizenry are the ones that make demands. So it is possible that this demand has been made of the politicians, and the politicians have made promises that, okay, don't worry, we'll make sure that we attend to this, or we'll do something about it. This might be some of the things that has given birth to where you have a politician coming to say that, okay, in our constituency and in our society as Nigeria as a whole, there is something missing. And part of what is missing is that our churches are not being engaged, our mosques are not being utilized the manner at which they are supposed to be used. Don't forget, your traditional school is not able to handle our population anymore. We have too many children that the traditional schools don't have the capacity to take in. So how do we take in the ones that are left behind? This is where the mosque and churches always come in, because they also have schools and both Islamic school and traditional school under the religion banner that helps us to take care of some of the children that the traditional school cannot take in.
All right, Honorable, you did mention the fact that the moral decadence in our countries, there's a moral decadence there, and hence, of course, the budget that was allocated about 8 billion naira. But of course, you also do recall that the Constitution, or rather, first, the government funds certain pilgrimage commissions. The Hajj Commission is there. The Pilgrimage Commission is there. These are responsibilities already that the government takes on themselves. Why allocate 8 billion naira? Again, for building of churches and mosques. Why they already allocate money every single year for these pilgrimage and Hajj commissions?
Okay, so now, if you're also conversant with the government, you will see that we have reduced, especially in Lagos State, the amount that is being invested on pilgrimage has been reduced drastically, majorly it's been reduced. So I don't think that the government spends as much as we do back then on pilgrimage, and it's beginning to be a bit unrealistic for government to be sponsoring pilgrimages because it's getting more expensive by the day. And if you continue looking at the ratio of the dollar to the naira, you will see that slowly it's being phased out by government. So if government is doing that and they're channeling their energy into renovating religious houses and schools, I think we're better off in the long run.
Okay. Honorable, first of all, I want to point out something that you already know, because of course you were once a lawmaker of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which means that we are not guided by religion. We are guided by a constitution here in Nigeria. And let me read out Section 10 of the 1999 Constitution as amended to you. It does say that the government of the Federation or of a state shall not adopt any religion as a state religion. Now, saying that, although that was a bit vague, because that part of the Constitution did not explicitly point out any form of, should I say, punishment for any government official that is found flaunting that order. I know you have made mention of the fact that schools and all of those contribute to who we are as a people, as Nigerians. But do you believe that, as a former lawmaker, do you think that this Section 10 of the 1999 Constitution is for decoration? You do not believe that we should follow through with what the Constitution stipulates?
I don't think that there's any state or country, any state or local government within the four walls of Nigeria that would say that they are a Muslim state or a Christian state. I don't think any state would boldly come out and say that. What you have is a situation where you have some states are majorly populated with Christians, and some states are majorly populated by Muslims. And in those kind of situations, you find out that the government will tend to do things in the Islamic way. They are more dominated by Muslims, and in the Christian way, they are more populated by Christians. So it's not that Nigeria is telling you is a Muslim state or a Christian state. No, we just have a population. Some states are more populated than others, divided in religious lines. So I don't think that we have breached the constitution. I don't think that Nigeria as a country has breached the constitution by saying that we're a Muslim state or that we're a Christian state. No, I don't think anybody has violated that 10th section of the constitution. Right. And remember, the same constitution gives us the right to practice any religion that we wish to.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's talk to you, Mr. Emeka, very briefly now. Still on this conversation now, Nigerians have actually experienced several budget controversies over the years, from budget padding, duplicated projects, and constituency insertions identified by civic groups as well. From your observation, does this latest controversy suggest that those reforms haven't gone far enough in our nation?
Yeah, good morning. Nice to be here.
Welcome.
First of all, let me say emphatically that government has no business funding churches, funding any religious body, and the National Assembly also has no business getting into the business of construction or project allocation. Now, back to your question, we have to understand what are the issues at stake. How do these such projects get into the project? This process began somewhere around 1999, just after 99, the Obasanjo regime. And in a bid for Obasanjo to get control over the National Assembly, he gave them some powers to allocate personal projects into the budgets for their constituency. And over the years, we have seen this monster called constituency projects snowball into a Frankenstein monster that we can no longer control. Last year, budget estimated that insertions by lawmakers into the budget amounted to 6.2 trillion. Now, imagine the good sum 6.2 trillion and what it could solve. So this, yes, admittedly, the budget is a bill before the National Assembly, and just like every bill, this National Assembly can make inputs into the bill. But the lawmakers for over the years have learned how to abuse this insertion. There is no the world view of that IBED view of what does the nation need at this particular point. They do not understand that famous economic principle that resources are scarce and wants are limited. They believe that this money is the national cake and should be shared as they want. So what the next lawmakers do is that every budget cycle, everybody begins to look for what he can get and how to, massacre any amount of money, make frivolous insertions, put street light project here, say he will renovate a community hall there, he's going to put money for churches in his constituency, he's going to do what I call, in fact, for the past 5 years, I've been in an advocacy which I've always advocated that constituency project has to go. Nigerians must give away the whole concept of constituency projects. So what we are saying here is that a separation of the whole concept of constituency projects. People being free to insert whatever they want. There is no logical reason for inserting that project. And because they claim it is an appropriation bill, and since it's a bill before the National Assembly, it is within their right to insert whatever they want. Nobody can control them. Whether you call it budget padding, they believe they are within their right and they insert whatever they want. That's what we're witnessing today. All those insertions, none of the lawmakers ask, how does this confer any benefits to Nigerians? What is the long-standing benefit of this project? Because a lawmaker should be able to ask, if I invest in a mosque, supply a musical project to a church, and we pay amount of money, this 700 million for it, how does it benefit Nigerians in that area? Every year they spend this kind of amount as constituency project, but the poverty rate keeps deepening. The access to education is not improving. The out-of-school children are increasing. Access to healthcare is not improving. The lawmakers feel that they can insert this because that is where they make money. That is where lawmakers make money. They start this thing and nominate contractors who are going to do these projects, and one way or the other they get kicked back. So I think the only reform, what I've asked for years, is that this matter should be tested by the Supreme Court. Should lawmakers have the powers to insert projects into appropriation bill beyond what have been sent by the executive? I think it's a matter the Supreme Court has to decide. And if the Supreme Court doesn't decide this matter, we'll keep having this kind of issue every year, and nobody's going to stop it.
All right. Do you as well think, of course, no, this current administration have asked Nigerians to be patient, talks about the fact that good reforms requires sacrifices. Now, out of the 76 billion naira that has been earmarked for the 2026 appropriation bill, the budget as it is, 8 billion naira there has been earmarked as well for the building of the churches, renovation of the churches and mosques as well. Do you think that the government now, the morale of the government is weakened to ask Nigerians to be patient if they are going to be earmarking 8 billion naira for the renovation of churches and mosques?
Yes, like I've always said, the biggest weak point of this administration is that they've not been able to check their fiscal. They've been very, very fiscally responsible, because when there is a hard time, you should be able to, do direct spending. I support all the reforms. I support subsidy removal. I support floating of the currency. But I've been against the way they've been able to reallocate whatever resources that have been out of that. What benefit has been able to come out of that reforms, and you can see it in the budget process, where 8 billion is going to churches. And I can assure you, we're in the farming season now, and I can assure you that the Ministry of Agriculture has not provided any farming input to farmers. We'll start seeing it by November, but they're allocating money to churches, they're allocating monies to mosques, they're allocating monies to street lights in the middle of nowhere, or road leading to nowhere, just to say, oh, I've done something for my constituency. So the government, and to be fair to the executive arm of government, this is always a contest. Most of these things you see are insertions done by lawmakers. They do not come from the original budget presented by the executive. When it gets to the National Assembly, the Appropriation Committee at the National Assembly gets to insert various projects by themselves. Okay, Mr. A will come and we help him to insert one or two projects. That's why you see funny agencies getting these projects. Every lawmaker just look for an agency he's cool with, he has access to, and just put a project in that ministry, not even know whether that ministry has the capacity to do that project. So that's what you see how is most of these insertions come from the lawmakers, and because the executive want the lawmakers to have the lawmakers in their side, so that they can bring any bill, and the lawmakers will, these days bills get passed within 1 week without any committee stage. Without any public hearing. You just hear a bill has been passed. They just want the lawmakers to do their business, so they willingly concede all those things without challenging them. So we're just left at a cul-de-sac. Is the executive who recognizes that this process is wrong, but they have to concede to the lawmakers for them to get their bid done. And lawmakers who feel that they have to do these things to get their for their electorate to vote for them. So it's just a funny situation. But I think Nigerians have to go to the Supreme Court to determine if the lawmakers have the right to insert. That is the only reform. Once there is a Supreme Court verdict and finality on it, I think we'll have a better reform.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's go back to Honorable Oban Nikoro, and then we come back to you, Mr. Emeka, yet again. Honorable, are you with us? All right. Now, Nigeria's total 2026 allocation for health is roughly 5.2% of the 68.32 trillion naira, which is, of course, the highest budget, for that Nigeria has ever signed, for a year. Now, we have that for health. Education also received about 4% of the 2026 budget, which is way below international benchmarks. Now, my question to you, Honorable, because you made a comment about how we're religious people and how the government can intervene here or there. You have your bias regarding that. But looking at the current situation we face here in Nigeria, when it comes to education, when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to security, do you think that allocating over 8 billion naira for churches, mosques, and palaces is justifiable at this point, looking at where we are currently as a Nigerian people?
So first of all, let me rebuttal the budget of 2025 that Mr. Emeka referred to, that the National Assembly got 6.1 trillion naira. That is not fact. Of that budget, if memory serves me right, I think about, or naturally, about less than 70.70% of the budget usually goes to National Assembly. And that is inclusive of salaries of all the National Assemblies, including members, and all the same projects that we're referring to. So everything came up to about 340 something billion last budget. So I just want to clarify that, because I know that all these figures, they go far and wide, and you can't control it once they've been said. So let me quickly make sure that Nigerians can go and fact check me and fact check Mr. Emeka himself to see which is accurate. And going back to what you have said, if you go to the National Assembly profile in 2021, I believe, or 2020, I can't remember which year, I was the one that stood up on the floor of the House and said that, look, the amount that were being allocated for health cannot do it. It is too small, because if you go to South Africa and compare our population and compare what they have allocated for health to what we have, you will see that we're not taking health seriously. Now, from that time to today, a major improvement has been done. We have 5% of our budget being allocated to health. And I hope that it will increase, because they say health is wealth. I don't think this is enough as well for our, if you go by the population that we have. The same thing, education. Now, you see, as a country, we can't, sometimes, yes, you tackle situation you have at hand, and then there are some situations that you also tackle ahead of time. Like I said, there's something missing in the fabric of our social and moral entity as a people. And we need to start tackling it now in the long run. I remember once upon a time when we were growing up, I could leave my bicycle outside of my compound, go into my house, come back the next morning, and my bicycle will still be there. That cannot be done again in Nigeria today. If you leave your bicycle outside, your neighbors will not even know who has taken your bicycle, and it's gone. That is because the people have morally, we are beginning to lose it, or rather we've lost it. So we need to start instilling morale back into our people. And how do we do that? It's through religion and education.
Wow.
So when you are saying religion, sometimes it's not just about reading the Bible or the Quran or praying. My school, my mosque where I go and pray, they have Islamia. It's a school. What do they do there? They teach our children about Quran and how to live the righteous way of life. So when you see what does not belong to you, you don't take it. Or when you see something that belongs to your neighbor, you can take it to your neighbor and say, neighbor, this is what I have found. It's yours.
Okay.
So if they are doing that now, if they're injecting money and on the religious entity now, so that in the future, our coming children would have morale in them and know that, okay, I don't want to be into, I don't want to go deep into insecurity, because it's not something that is comfortable with everybody at the moment. But the fact is that if you have a situation where children are engaged religiously, at least you can pull them back from joining cults, from joining gangs, or being part of all these cults and people that are kidnapping and banditting. It's all as a result of that we have lacked morals. Okay. So I don't think we should look at it that, oh, they budgeted 8 billion to reconstruct a religion. No, it's not just about religion.
Okay.
Religion is more than reading Bible and Quran nowadays.
Honorable.
A lot of people have belief in their pastors. If their pastors tell them this, they are going to do it. Ditto Islam. A lot of people have believed in their chief imams. So I'm not saying give these people also the opportunity to give back to the community. If my mosque is standard, up to date, I'd rather go to my mosque and seek solace there than be on the streets and be socializing that will at the end of the day get you into trouble.
Honorable, sorry, I need to ask him a follow-up on that. Thank you so much, Honorable. But this analogy you have made out, personally, I think it's quite funny, because If you go back to the World Bank report that was released in April and was later deleted, you'd see that the World Bank report said that in 2018, it said 4 in every 10 Nigerian is poor. And in 2026, 2025, 2026, 10 or 6 rather in every 10 Nigerians are now poor. Now, after that data that the World Bank had released, we went on to look at other degenerating factors, which are ripple effects of poverty that is eminent in our country, Nigeria. Hunger. We don't even want to start to talk about hunger. So, when you make the assertion of saying that it is because we have lost our moral values, that is why a person is no longer safe or people can resort to stealing. It is funny because the report and the data shows otherwise. It says that because of poverty, many young Nigerians are now being forced to go through illegal means to gain funds. And do not forget, this is the same pastors and imams that we have criticized over the years, talking about the fact that, they are exploiting the members of their church. We have also said here that imams are also exploiting the member of church. And I'll give you a very recent example where bishops now went to meet the president to talk about the situation of the country in Nigeria. And if they were so important that they were factored in a budget, the comments now coming out of the federal government about the comments that were made by the former Archbishop Onaiko wouldn't have been so. So are you saying now that much more than securing the country security-wise, economically, you think that the religious leaders will play a more vital role in fixing the country than all of these other aspects?
No, don't get me wrong. I'm not giving the religious leaders the right or that they have the entity to repair the nation.
Mm-hmm.
No. What I'm telling you is that it's part of the circle. You are the topic of today is that 8 billion naira was allocated to religious houses, and that is why I'm talking from that angle of things.
Okay.
Now, hunger is a different thing entirely on its own. Now, because we are talking about religious houses, I'm not a Christian, but I know that not too far from my house, Guiding Light Assembly is there.
Okay.
And I know the amount of people they feed on a daily basis, that you just see the queue. You ask, what are they doing? They are collecting food. That is them trying their part. And House of the Rock too is just across the bridge from me. Now, if you also come to my mosque, 7 p.m., you will see that queue. What are they doing? They are collecting food. That is religious houses trying their best to help us feed people that are not able to feed. So, like I said, we are talking because of the your topic, which is 8 billion being allocated to renovation of religions. That's why I focused on that aspect of our lives.
Okay.
So they are also trying to educate us. They are trying to feed us. They are trying to clothe us. And they are also trying to keep some of our children out of the streets. So if a politician goes during campaign and tells you, okay, I'm meeting with the Muslim community today, and the Muslim community gives you what they want, don't forget, you have 360 House of Rep members and 160 senators. They know the nooks and crannies of their constituency. When I was a member of the National Assembly, Takwabi had never seen solar streetlights in the entire being of Nigeria. But during the campaign, I told them I was going to bring solar streetlight there. And I did.
Okay.
So these are things that brings up some of the empowerment and social infrastructure development that you see from the National Assembly.
All right,
so
Honorable.
if some people come, let me land. If some people come and undermine this gesture, I think it's unfair to especially politicians, or especially lawmakers that mean well. Because like I said, their constituencies are large. A minister representing a state cannot cover the entire constituency. It's only focused or limited to a certain area that he's familiar with.
Okay.
But if you have a lawmaker that is representing Eleme, I'm just picking up one of the locations in Port Harcourt, he will know what's going on in Eleme. And if he has held meetings with them that vote for me, I'll do this for you, and he's trying to live up to that mandate, which is not his personal idea. It was given to him during campaign.
All right.
So if some people have abused it, does not mean that the generality of National Assembly abused that opportunity.
All right,
so
Honorable.
It's obvious Mr. Emeka has never been to National Assembly.
Well,
he's just going off of.
He's going to respond as well, because we also have a few questions. So we'll come back to you on the constituency that you just raised, because we have a question in that line. But let's talk to Mr. Emeka very briefly as well. Mr. Emeka, of course, you're following the conversation, and you've also seen that Nigerians partner with faith-based organizations for some of this goodwill and responsibility in place of education, in place of healthcare. This is a constant, in the Nigerian faith-based institution. Now, should the Nigerian government not be thinking of building some of these institutions themselves, or even funding those institutions themselves, to ensure that what these churches are doing, the government can do a whole lot more better than wanting to take this money and, of course, allocating it to various churches and mosques in the country, Nigeria?
Okay, thank you. First, just give me 2 minutes. Let me respond to what my...
We'll appreciate if we stick to a minute, make it like
I will. I will.
Go ahead. Thank you.
One, he said people should fact check me, but I want to correct. I'm not talking about the National Assembly budget, which amounted to about 346 billion. I'm talking about insertions done by lawmakers into the budget, and you can fact check yourself. It was at the 2025 budget, a total of over 11,000 projects were inserted outside of what the executive brought to it, amounting to about 6.9 trillion. So you can fact check yourself. Then secondly, the church doesn't teach morality. It's not the job of the church. It is society that determines morality, and the society is the government. So faith-based institutions cannot perform law enforcement duties. If you want to stop stealing, if you want to stop crime, you equip law enforcement. And that means how you do it is to improve your budgetary allocation to the police. The last time I did a calculation, I think we have about one policeman to about 10,000 Nigeria, I can't remember the figure. So if you want to improve law enforcement, so let me say like Saudi Arabia, well known or often seen as a religious country. How do they teach morality? It's not the churches. They have a very strict technology-driven police force that monitors every citizen. So that idea that churches will teach morality is not true. The society and that is the government who enforces morality, whatever we define as morality, because morality is what is defined by the laws of that country, right? Once the law says it's wrong, not what I feel, it's what the law says. And it is the executive through the police who enforces that law. So the churches are out of there. And two, the civic social responsibility of this faith-based association should not be seen as what government should support. I, as an individual, can donate to my church. You, as an individual, can donate to your mosque. But the government should not get into that business, because we say in economies, resources are scarce. Government cannot solve all the whole problem in the world, in the country. And therefore, they have to prioritize the problems which are most paramount. And this problem are health, education, job creation. So we understand the government has to recognize faith-based organizations are partners in progress. That in that partnership, the government will encourage them to work independently, not to take from my taxes, your taxes, in a way that nobody. Let me say you give 8 billion to a church. Who monitors how they spend it? Who monitors the budget process? So we're saying that the government should not allocate people's money, because we must understand that this money is my money, is your money. And they should not give it to churches. Without churches, we give that money in trust to government to manage with accountability, to be able to account for how every kobo is spent. So government should not subscribe its role to faith-based organization. We are not saying faith-based organizations do not have a role to play in morality, in helping the society. We don't say they don't have. They have a role to play. But we are saying that government have no right giving people's money to them. They can partner in other ways, but not with other people's money.
All right. All right, Mr. Emeka. This question is a 1 minute question. The question I'm going to ask you now is a 1 minute question. So we have seen, from your standpoint, you are of the opinion that both the society and the government must not exchange rules. The government has the rules that the government will play. The church has the rules that the church will play. So how do you think that this would affect this particular budget now that has been allocated to, for church renovations and what have you? How does this affect the Nigerian people? How does this affect the Nigerian economy in general?
Let me call myself as an quasi-economist. The only way it will affect the Nigerian people is inflation. These are why things become expensive, because government does not have this money that's even given to these people. It goes to borrow, or goes to the central bank to print some of this money, because you're over borrowing, and when you over borrow, the next thing is inflation. Basic economic sense. The more the supply of money increases, the more demand increases, and you have inflation. So at the end of the day, we are punishing ourselves, even thinking we're doing good to the society. In economic terms, these things are what drives inflation. We say, everyone will say, oh, the price of things are gone up. It's probably government spending. It's government spending that drives inflation. Because government goes to borrow it. As of today now, if you go to the capital market to borrow, the government is crowding private borrowers. Every day the government is doing savings bond, is doing what do they call it? It's doing treasury bills. These are all money they are going to borrow back and spend as the budget, because they don't have the money and they're promising to do all those things. They don't have the money. They go to borrow it to do all those things. And at the end of the day, I have a debt.
All right.
My children are going to have a debt. My next children are going to have a debt. And inflation is going to, just because they want to satisfy things that they don't need to do.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let's have Honorable with you. Honorable, are you there with us? Honorable, are you with us?
I am.
Thank you. This is also a 1 minute question. So can you tell us, is this, because there are many assertions Nigerians have regarding this recent budget for churches, mosques, and what have you. Do you think this is misplaced priority or legitimate constituency service?
Well, like I said, if this assertion, it's not into running the daily activities of the church. I think, like you rightly said, is to renovate and give the churches amenities to make churches and mosques more attractive to our teenagers and give them option of places to go and spend your time.
All right.
I think that is what this is about. I am not in the system. I don't have the full scope of the meaning behind it, but I want to believe, from experience, from conversations, from conversation here and there.
Yeah.
I think that is the essence behind it. That look, it is not a today matter. It is, let us protect. It's a future matter where we can make a way to start repairing our moral fabrics that is slowly tearing away.
All right.
And to also talk about briefly on the Nigerian.
Just a few seconds, because we are about to be on to other things. We're out of time.
Okay, I was just going to talk about the ratio of police to citizenry. In the US, it's 1 to 415. In the UK, it's 1 to 400 and something. In Nigeria, it's 1 to 600 and something. So we're also getting there.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Honorable, for your time. We appreciate you.
All right. I think back to myself, obviously, and Victor in the studio. Victor, what are your thoughts on this? Because these are two guests from varying perspective of things. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I personally think that what the government should have been looking at is supporting the projects that the churches are doing, rather than just the renovation or buying equipment for the churches and the mosques, because faith-based organizations are already carrying a whole lot of responsibility. They provide healthcare, they provide education, they provide feeding, they provide transportation. These things are responsibilities that churches are carrying out on their own, right? I'm sure certain mosques also do the same thing, basically. These are individuals, these are religious institutions that are doing this already on their own. So it means that if they want to renovate their buildings, to an extent, they have the resources to doing that, except maybe the little small churches, they don't have the capacity to build, first of all, before you start talking about renovating. But churches, faith-based organizations are already taking up massive responsibilities that are, one, building up the morale, building up the credibility of individuals in our society. But in the long run, government needs to also ensure that the responsibilities that has been earmarked for the government has got to be done. One of the reasons why constituency projects were, introduced is to solve local needs. Now, in this time and era, we've seen a few times where it now looks like it has become a political play, where constituency projects are no longer serving local needs, but rather more like serving political alignment or allies in the case, as the case may be. But I do hope, of course, that this can be properly looked into, and the right thing should be done, not just, allocating monies, but of course, ensuring that the money that's been allocated can actually solve the need of Nigerians. Inflation is on the high side. We see that. But go ahead.
I was going to take from what you had said about the government building new churches. Victor, in Nigeria, as of 2026, we have about 37,543 churches. 37,000. Why do we need a new one? Why do we need new churches? If you see, Assemblies of God alone has 16,300 churches in Nigeria. And there's more to come. Are we going to talk about the Redeemed Christian Church of God? Early Pentecostal apostolic churches like the Anglican and the Catholics, they have over 300,000 churches here in Nigeria. Why do we need more churches? And I understand the points where Honorable Obanikoro is coming from. Oh yes, the society is now morally decadent. But there's something that is responsible for that. We must not look at the reaction of things. We must deal with things from the root cause. When we deal with the root cause, then we can start to deal with the reactions. So when we see that the number of people that do drugs in Nigeria is starting to increase, we will not start prosecuting them or just taking them to rehab because more people will eventually join. What we will do is look for the source. Where are these drugs coming from? Which is what the NDLEA is doing right now. Where are these drugs coming from? How can we block the areas where these drugs are coming from? If you do that, the number of people that engage in it will automatically increase. The number of people that disengage rather will automatically increase because now there's no availability. So the matter of allocating to churches looks to me like the government wanting the church to carry out its responsibility. And there's something I talked about, sustainability in government, which means the givings of the government or the allocations of the government should not be a one-off thing. How can you track whether the churches that you allocate, first of all, how can you track that this money gets to the churches?
Exactly.
What formula? I have told you about 300,000 apostolic churches here in Nigeria. Assemblies of God, over 200 and over 16,000, right? How are you going to distribute these monies to these various churches and denominations? Remember, there are some in local communities that is only family members that have. We don't know about those churches. What is your formula for distribution of this fund that you are allocating? That's one. Secondly, how would you ensure that these monies are being used? In fact, what is your target for giving these monies to churches? Is it just renovations? How can you follow up that these things are being done?
Yeah, and these are very vital questions that need to be
of course
asked. And that's where again I'll go back to the constituencies project that was introduced to solve local needs, right? Developmental projects are beginning to be so rare in this part of the world. What we'll get to see now, people building boreholes, people building roads, and all of that. But what projects are you putting in the society, in your constituency, to ensure that members that are residing and are from those constituencies actually have something that they're looking forward to, that they can get down to this establishment and they can grow themselves? These things are lacking in various constituencies, and that's why I talk about the fact that rather than then solving the local needs, they are now converting this whole thing to a political play. And we've heard about these allegations. Some politicians have been probed over years for this particular reason. If they only pay attention to developmental projects, Nigeria is going to be a lot more better.
Yes.
Just over the weekend, I met someone, and he talked about the fact that he had to travel down from the south to Abuja because he wanted to do a form of a welding project, but he didn't even see where that could happen here in the FCT. And I said to him, some of these things happen more in Lagos State and maybe briefly sometimes in River State. I think I've heard about one. But imagine the FCT. Most of the organizations that are going to find the FCT, their ministries, their departments, their agencies. I think
that's part of the design.
Right?
Yeah.
That's part of the design, right? Now, most of the big conglomerates, you find their HQ, their headquarters in Lagos State. decentralizing this development to other parts of the country is what I think the government should be looking at. Pay attention to projects. These are important. Churches will fill up stadiums and they will feed the entire stadium.
They will feed it.
Feed them. We've seen various churches do this, and they do it not one of, they do it constantly.
Yeah.
So it means that some churches have the capacity. They've taken on upon themselves the responsibility to ensure that humans, citizens, residents in the country of Nigeria, they don't go hungry. What is the government doing?
Fix the economy,
Simple
and then
as
the
that.
church will have less people to feed. The mosque will also have less people to feed.
Simple.
The crowding of churches and mosques for feeding is as a result of
the hunger.
The hunger
in
and
the
the
society.
inadequacies, you know, in the government in itself.
Yeah.
But we want to deal with the top of the matter and never the bottom. But I guess this is where we'll wrap up this conversation. It's been an exciting time having the conversations with Honorable Obanikoro and Mr. Mecca. And we have been here talking about the allocation of about 8 billion naira by the government for the renovation of church, mosques and palaces here in Nigeria. Before we head out, to remind you that we are active across social media platforms. On Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, and on X, it is at Rapid TV. Our YouTube page is at Official Rapid TV, and www.rbnradiotv.com is our website, and it allows you to connect with us from anywhere in the world. In addition to that will be free TV. You can go on your iOS and your Android and download free TV. Search for Rapid TV and you can connect automatically to all of our programs we have lined up here for you on TV. Once again, thank you so much for joining us this morning. My name is Martha Alu.
My name is Victor. Okay, well, we'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.